What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Why We Love PlayStation VR. Sitting all the way across the city from me this week and every week, he's the king of all VR kings. He's a shoot 'em up king. It's Jeremy, fucking king.
Nice. Yeah. That's awesome. And notice I didn't avoid that intro because I'm hyper excited to be here. And sitting all the way, not anywhere near me, is Brian Hall.
And every week on Why We Love PlayStation VR, we dip into the PSVR archive. We pull out a game at random. We check it out. We play the crap out of it. See if it's been given any love by developers, any updates, any DLC. We pull the dust off of it. That's right. And
gather
actual real dust with dust mites and like hair follicles and like skin.
Yeah, stuff you don't want.
Yeah, you don't want that stuff. That's like,
no.
Blow it off. And then we let you know, the little game cats, if it's worth your time. That being said, Jeremy, what game did we decide to play this week?
Hyper Void Complete.
Hyper Void Complete by In Frames Technology, originally released on PlayStation 4. Well, that's not really true, but on PlayStation 4, it's originally released September 8th, 2015 for $9.99. Jeremy, what kind of game is Hyper Void Complete?
It's a shooter. A space shooter.
Yeah, it's a shmup.
Shmup?
I don't like
that
term. I don't like the term.
Call that?
Well, because it used to be shoot 'em up. And then they just smushed it down, which I don't like. Shoot 'em up is great. Why shmup it?
Shmup it, yeah. Well, people like to combo. People love combos.
Yeah. I like the pretzel combos with cheddar cheese.
Pizza were my favorite combos when I could eat those.
Really good stuff. Just FYI, this game's been on sale for as little as $3 with PlayStation Plus, $4 without, and even once upon a time was a free PlayStation 3 game with PlayStation Plus. This is how I got the game, because I've always had PlayStation Plus. So when it was free on PlayStation 3, I was like, well, I'm not using my PlayStation 3, but I downloaded it, and it was cross-buy with the PlayStation 4 version, and the VR levels were free. So nice. I actually got the complete PlayStation 4 VR version for free.
Sweet. Not bad.
Yeah. So you said it's a shoot 'em up.
Yeah.
But it's also a little bit more than that. There's a whole nother kind of shoot 'em up genre, like maybe a subgenre called tube shooters.
Is that really?
It's like where movement's limited to sort of like the shape of the environment. Sometimes you're on the inside of a tube. Sometimes you're on the outside of a tube, like Polybius or whatever. And they've really mixed it up in this game. But like, if you guys remember like Tempest or Nanotech Warrior on PlayStation 1, that was oddly the first game that came to mind. And it shouldn't be. There's way better examples. And of course, Polybius. And then shoot 'em ups, if you guys, played some classic shoot 'em ups like R-Type, Life Force, Einhander, Sylphie.
Ikaruga, wasn't that a good one on GameCube?
Man, that was a really good one. Before we really dive into this, what is your background with like shmups?
Ikaruga on the GameCube.
That's the one.
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah,
I blew my load early. I brought it up, and that's the only one.
Right. Actually, no, my very first one, because technically would be considered. Remember Legendary Wings on Nintendo?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. That was one of the very first games I ever played on my very own Nintendo. My dad, when he came home with the Nintendo that was meant for my mother for her birthday, it came with Tiger Healy, Mario Duck Hunt, and he bought Legendary Wings. Don't ask me why, but I loved it. Great.
Legendary Wings was ridiculously hard. I remember that.
Yeah.
I brought up the two types of shoot 'em ups, or those two types of shoot 'em ups for a reason, and that's because this game is divided into those two types of levels. The game actually refers to them as outer space levels, where it's just you've got your ship and you can strafe left and right, and you're just kind of flying in outer space. You can never control your ship vertically.
Nope.
You can never go in or out of the plane. And then and then they also have the wormhole levels, which are the tube shooter levels, and they really go crazy with the shapes of the tubes in this, don't they?
They certainly do. Yeah, a heart shape at one point.
It was a heart shape.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just like a U.
Yeah.
Like a half
Sometimes
pipe.
It's like it dips down, so you can you'll shoot and you can see your shots going down around the bend, but you don't really see what's coming up around. One thing I'm going to get off right off the bat is the controls.
Ooh, talk to me about the controls.
So, it's pretty basic. The L1 and the R1, or even the L2 and the R2, they will get you to like a little avoidance, left or right. And then
Hyper avoidance. I like
yeah,
how you did that. That was good.
see, I got to tie it together. And then there's three different ways to shoot. There's like an electronic constant beam. I think that was the circle. The X was the traditional
Yeah.
pew, 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 that shit.
Like a
And
blaster,
then
yeah.
the square was those two green
Like slow
shots,
missiles or something, right?
right?
Yeah.
And then going left and right. So I didn't understand fully the whole control scheme with left to right when you were in the tubes, because you'd hit left all the way and you'd have to keep holding left so that you go up and around the entirety of the course to come back this way. It wasn't like where naturally you'd think you're going to hit left and then eventually you'll start to turn right so you can continue down, with the analog. It really fucked up avoiding enemies for me when I was trying to go up and around and do all this kind of shit because of the way the controls worked. We had to continue it around, and some reason if you want to go back the other way, it wouldn't fully. I had difficulty. Did you have any trouble with avoiding things that when you were on like the roof of the tube or on the
Excuse me. Whew, I tried to mute myself.
Oh, you just blew my hat off, Brian. Wow. All the way over here. Don't get that spittle on me.
I'm really bad at pushing the mute button on time. I'm really bad at that.
Oh yeah, you totally missed it on that one.
Yeah, no, I reached for it and it was too late. Yeah,
That was
I actually didn't have a problem with it. That's not true. There were certainly times where I tried to keep myself as close to near in front of me or the bottom of the screen as I could, just so I could kind of keep that in my head and work with it properly. Because you're right, if I stopped at the top of the screen, like if I was in a traditional circle level or something, or
Yep.
cylinder, and I'd stop at the top of the cylinder, if I stopped there and then I tried to move out of the way quickly, bad news. Like my brain wouldn't
Yeah.
process that, and so
Right?
that's why.
Disconnect.
And so that's why if I was on top, I would just keep moving back around until I hit the bottom again, if possible. Yeah, but
Yep.
yeah, you're right. There's a total disconnect there, but I think it's all part of the. I don't think they could have. If they changed it to the other way, I think it would have been even worse for me.
Oh yeah, you think? Well, it did add an element of, I don't want to say strategy, but difficulty, I guess. And it didn't add it in the way you'd think. It added it more in a frustration type of way,
Yeah, you're fighting the game instead of like
Yeah.
the enemies.
And there's no matter the length of playing it, there was no getting over that. You know what I mean? And like all of a sudden it just clicked because it was completely opposite of it'd be like playing a regular shooter and the right analog would make you move forward and back, and the left would make you look around. It's complete opposite.
Right. So the power ups in this,
yeah,
totally different than a normal shoot 'em up, right?
Yeah, they are pretty different.
They're basically all buffs, and they're immediate buffs. The second you pick them up, you're using them. You don't get to store them and then hit triangle when you need them the most or something. The second you pick them up, they're yours and you're using them. You got invincibility, kind of mass destruction, clear the screen kind of thing. Weapon overload, where all your weapons are just firing constantly for like 5 or 10 seconds.
Best one.
But there's what's that?
Shield regeneration one. There was one where you just instantly regenerate your shield.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we even keep talking about the power-ups, did you... I didn't realize, it took me like an hour to realize that there's kind of a HUD in this game. So like, you have 3 hit points. Do you know how you see that?
No, I do not know how. I was always trying to figure that one out.
Yeah, so your kind of your thruster in the back of your ship is green at first. And it's like,
okay.
And so that means you can still get hit 2 more times, and then it turns yellow. You can get hit 1 more time, and you get red, and then you're like done.
It's funny that I never really paid attention to my ship. Maybe right in the very beginning when you put your fucking VR headset on, and then it's like right there. You're like, oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
And then that was it. I never really looked at the ship because I'm always looking ahead, and
Right.
shooting what's ahead and trying to avoid. And if the ship's up here, you're still trying to look ahead and just rotate, and avoid everything. So my eyes were never truly on that ship too often.
Yeah, it was a little strange to be like, I don't know how many hit points I have left. I'm like, I got to look down at my ship. I would have actually preferred a normal HUD in this, just because this isn't the most immersive game in the world. It's not like we're playing first person in the cockpit or something. And if we were, then the cockpit could have all the information we need. But since it's like kind of like this, interesting looking, but not like super crazy immersive game, I wouldn't have minded just like the option to have something like just in 2D in the top right hand side or something.
Yeah, just on the peripheral, just something right there.
Yeah.
I mean, they had no issues putting those little those green things you could read that were like
We'll get
somewhat
there.
important.
We will get there. But also, just FYI, for anyone who didn't notice, when you're shooting, there is an on-screen indicator for how much power each of those weapons have left as well. So, and those are all on like the wings of your ship. There's actually like a blue line that goes down, a red line that goes down. You can actually see this stuff on the ship if you're paying attention. I had no idea. It took me like an hour, and then finally, when I started paying attention to that, I was like, "Oh, this is helpful, sort of, but not
Right?
totally, because I'm
You
not going to stare at my ship."
you couldn't shoot rapidly for too long until it started slowing down. It was really quick. So like if you held down the X button, you'd be like, and then it would be like seconds later, pew,
Yeah,
pew, pew, pew. And I mean, it really got you by with nothing. So I mean, like it was easy to just tap, 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 tap instead of holding it down
yeah.
because
It
pull
almost
it
like
down.
trained me. It almost like
Yeah,
trained me. Like hold it down for 2 seconds and let it go.
let it go.
Hold it down for 2 seconds. Let it go. So interesting way of going about all that. But what bothered me is that I would have loved basically any other type of weapon upgrade system or any other type of power up system, because I
Yeah.
didn't care that much about any of the power ups except for like the shield regeneration one.
Hmm.
What I would have loved is something like R type, something attaches to your ship and gives you like another something else that's firing, or something like
Yeah.
life force, where suddenly I'm trying to remember if this is actually the case in Life Force, but where your normal X button, your normal blasters are stronger or last longer or something, right? Give me these permanent upgrades, or at least until I die upgrades with each of
Hmm.
these with each of these things. Um, and there's not even a way to like just hold down one of these buttons and do like charge up for a super shot kind of thing. Um,
No, yeah,
so I feel like they took inspiration from all of these classic shoot 'em ups, but then they didn't take enough inspiration. Like they could
yeah.
have gone a lot further with this and made it, I think, more enjoyable to play.
Yeah. One thing I would have felt would have changed it a little bit is if they added a way for you to almost rotate the tube in a sense as well too, where you could change and then you could rotate that tube around the enemies. It would add another whole layer because these things are coming at you. You're able to rotate, but then if you rotated everything around for your perspective, it would just add another whole. I don't know why. It was
What
when I was.
what if the ship was always locked at the bottom of the screen, and when you turn left and right,
Oh,
your
I don't know.
your
That would be
perspective
kind of.
changes with the ship,
That would be neat.
right?
Yeah. Remember the movie Life Force? Wasn't that a Life Force, an eerie old 80s space movie with something in space? Was Patrick Stewart in that? I don't know. I just always remember these alien things sucking the life force out of things and they become like these weird little husks of people, these mummified things. Somebody in the comments is going to know. I'm surprised you don't, Brian. That's an old classic one, Life Force.
Yeah, I'll have to look into it.
Google it after.
Yeah, well,
But yeah,
except I don't trust you anymore, because when we talked about moonlighting on the last episode of
I know.
it was actually Moonstruck,
Yeah,
and I should have known that because I something didn't sound right. Moonlighting was a
right.
TV show.
With Bruce Willis. Yeah, right.
God, God.
Yeah,
So anyway,
yeah. Back on topic. Yeah, Jeremy.
two ways to play each of these levels, right? You start off and you're playing in the normal mode. That's the default mode. You get 3 hit points. And then the game basically has like a set high score or a set score for you to reach to unlock
Yep.
the hyper mode.
Pretty obtainable. I mean, even if you weren't doing well, you'd obtain the score to get the hyper mode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they certainly want you to get there.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
What'd you think of hyper mode? Did you find it a lot more challenging?
Oh, yes. It was definitely more challenging because it's like one hit, and you're done. I almost think that everything coming at you was at a better rate, but the one hit thing just pissed me off beyond belief.
Right.
So, yeah, I didn't like that. But if it gave me the 3 hit type of thing, and still had everything coming at me like, a little bit more hyper. And first of all, I mean, I don't know if you had like what's the word? You expected it to be a little bit more hyper than it was,
Yeah.
because it wasn't that hyper. It was more like faster paced, faster paced mode. It was almost like they just turned up the speed like 12%. I just thought it was going to be like fast and like everything appearance wise would be fast, but it didn't give me that sense of, hyperness, It just made it a little more challenging because everything was one hit and you were done.
Right. Like the one hit element certainly made it more difficult, but then they sort of negated that by giving you a little bit more dexterity. Like your ship moves a little bit
Yeah.
better.
And it
Um,
does a little neat spinny thing every time you turn, which I liked.
yeah. And
Yeah.
and then like your weapons don't like they last longer. You can hold down the button
Yeah.
longer. And so
Hmm.
I was like, man, I kind of wish this was the game, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I wish that I could upgrade my ship during the game to to be able to achieve these results. Like give me more dexterity, give me a speed up, power up, that kind of thing. We kind of already talked about that, but again, it's like they did it, but just not in the way that I wanted.
Right.
Um, but I don't know. I don't know, and I guess, and I think that's sort of the theme of the episode. To be honest with you, they did something I really really enjoyed, but they didn't do it nearly in the way that I wish they had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I liked how on the playing field, if you will, your viewpoint, it was almost like you were on, like with Einstein and his like gravity and time, it's like a blanket, and how everything, dips around the space time, and the gravitational pull. I like that whole aspect of things where you're sitting there and you can see almost like the weight of everything on the space time gravitational field, where you can almost see the lines that are dipping down from everything coming at you, and the ripples that would travel down as you're shooting and stuff like that. Like I dug that. I thought that was pretty neat, with the very big 80s kind of a flair to all of it, with the wording and that grid system that you were riding on inside those tubes or on the outer side of the tubes.
Yeah, it feels like what we thought the future of video games would be like in the 80s.
Yeah, like a Virtual Boy, except like 30 years later.
Yeah,
You know?
totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah,
More,
it does look good. I think it's a good looking game.
yeah.
It's like we didn't really talk about like the aesthetics at all, but like I think the ship looks really nice when you're looking at it, which of course you very seldom are.
Yeah.
Enemies are kind of generic looking, but man, like they really I think for the first 8 or so levels I was like not enjoying anything, just being like, oh man, this is really easy and it's not really impressing me in any way whatsoever.
Hmm.
And then you get to, I think it was the ninth level, where you you start off and you're kind of going through a starship graveyard or something. And for the
Hmm.
first time in the game, they're not just like going, all right, we're flying, we're going, let's just shoot down on it. It's just like you're flying really slowly through it, and it
Hmm.
was so atmospheric. I feel like they're about to tell me a story here,
Yeah.
and it was very
Yeah.
cool because they just let you fly through it really slowly and kind of take it all in, and it looked beautiful.
Hmm.
And then you fight a boss, and I was like, oh, this is really cool.
Yeah.
Which is kind of maddening because I was like, well, why isn't the whole game like this? Why isn't the whole game like like being delivered like in this? It's give me kind of a serious tone. You mentioned the story a little bit, right? You'll see these cubes, and if you shoot them, like a wall of text appears.
Yeah.
And seriously, I mean, I read the text, and I still have no idea what the story is in this game.
I honestly did not even read the text because I
Good for
had
you.
zero. Yeah, I didn't. I had zero interest when I was playing it, to be honest, because nothing leading up to that had me interest. They didn't present a story enough for you to be intrigued by any kind of dialogue that could appear in front of you. Which I'm big on story. That's usually the number one factor. I don't care if a game could be amazingly fun, but if the story's boring, then I'll get bored with the gameplay. But if the
Right.
story's good, it keeps me going, even if the gameplay lacks. It's always a story for me.
Well,
And I don't know. I was confused by the whole situation with this fucking thing.
Well, you and I talk a lot about, and we complain a lot about all these VR games that have somebody talking in your ear constantly. There's always
Yeah.
this computer sidekick companion, or there's always
Yeah.
somebody. And I'm like, do we need this in every single game? And then finally, here's a game where I was like, how great would it be, instead of reading this block of text, we every so often get like a radio transmission from your base, where
Right.
they are being like, delivering some story and being like, oh, the last time we were in this quadrant, da 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 da, or just
Yeah.
give me anything like that, or even just be like, listen, we're not getting a clear signal on you. Make sure you're careful out there. Anything to
Mhm.
give me like the feeling that there's more to this game than there is,
Right.
instead of a
Yeah.
big wall of text trying to convince me that there is. Just
Yeah.
fucking do it, man.
Yeah. You know, you're the only one surviving. You got to make it to the end. The Earth's counting on you. All your other guys are killed. Blah blah blah. Whatever it might be, it almost seems like again where you said this game hit it on a bunch of things and failed on a bunch of things. That's just one simple thing. I feel like they should have done
Yeah.
is just a static little over your intercom type of message on just something, you know, because I didn't know what the fuck who I was shooting, why I was shooting them. Maybe that dialogue would have told me, but I just had no real interest to find out. It just seemed like one of those generic type of jump in, play, shoot some shit, and jump out type of games.
Yeah, yeah, for
You
sure. And it does, like, I mean, I don't know how you felt about the difficulty, but I feel like, like I said, the first 8 or 9 levels, there's 29 stages, and I feel like the first 8 or 9 were like just way too easy. And
Yeah.
then, where like you look at classic shooters, and like, you're meant to die over and over until you see the pattern,
Right away.
right?
Yeah.
And there's just so many levels you can just blast through level after level after level because each one's only a couple minutes.
Yeah. Some of them even quicker than that. It's some of them. It's like you shoot a few things and then you're done.
Right.
You go through that fucking hyperspace.
Yeah. And so the difficulty spikes are all over the place with this. It's like you go through 3 or 4 levels without even thinking about it, and then I hit one where I was like, I had to do it 15 times before I got past it, you know.
Yeah.
And so and that happened pretty frequently. It wasn't just the first 8 levels were easy and then they started getting difficult. It was the first 8
Yeah.
were easy, the next 2 were hard, the next 4 were easy, the next I was like, well, okay, I don't know what's going on anymore.
Yeah.
And I did like when it got difficult because I was like, oh man, it's like I need to get good at this. I need to see what's next. Keep me going.
Yeah.
But I kind of wish it was more steadily difficult. Like just the ramp could have
Yeah.
been
It
a
kept
lot
it
more
going.
even.
Yep. I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's funny, out of them all, my favorite level was the one where it seemed like that asteroid blew up some sort of a planet you were flying towards, and then all the debris and all the clumps of the planet flying at you, and you could avoid and shoot certain asteroids out of your way to get. I like that, and I think that was like early on in the part of the game at 6th level. I don't know,
Yeah, it's very
but
early on, and there's a
yeah,
couple asteroid fields in the game, but
that one was my favorite. I don't know why. I just liked seeing the fucking planet get blown up and then all of a sudden the debris coming at you. It
yeah,
was just no enemies, just you avoiding all that shit.
similar to that, I guess. And strangely enough, one of my other favorites, other than that starship graveyard we were talking about, was the one where you reach a point, and it might have been the following level, it might have been like level 9 or 10,
Mm-hmm.
where there's like there's enemies everywhere, and there's lightning happening in the background, but like none of the enemies have energy, like they are all like basically in sleep mode or something. And if you accidentally
Yeah,
shoot one, then a whole like group of them will wake up and start attacking you, and you're fucked. And so
yeah.
you're like slowly just kind of like weaving in and out of them as you go. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
man, more of this, please, more of this, because it gave me. And again, if I had somebody talking to me over the radio while I was doing it, it really could have been so impactful. I think we need to rate this.
I think we do. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's it.
What's our rating scale today, Jeremy?
One, you got to get this game. This is going to be an actual, real basic, by the books rating scale so people can follow. One is you need to own this thing. Just fucking take out your wallet right now, put the credit card information right into your PlayStation. It's secure, and download it. You'll play it. You'll love it. Two, hold off. Wait for it to be on sale for $2.99 or $3.99 again, and you'll have a good time and save some cash and have a good game. Three, just save your money. Don't bother. Order pizza, rent a movie, do something else. I don't even care if it's buying tons of toilet paper and waiting for the day you use it. You'll have more fun. So, Brian.
You'll have more fun on the toilet. Is 3? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man. This one's really, really tough for me. Actually, it's not really tough, but I think my final, like, because it's easily a 2.
Mhm.
I don't. This is not a trash game. That you can tell that there was some love put into this. It didn't go as far as I wanted it to. Obviously, I have so many ideas, things that I would have loved to see in this. I'd like to see a sequel that like takes these ideas and goes way further with them, and actually maybe ditches half of them and goes more of a Star Fox route or something where
Yeah.
give me control, give me not just the X-axis, let me move around on the Y-axis too, maybe even a little into the playing field, just give me that freedom to just avoid incoming attacks a little bit more.
Mhm.
But I thought that I think all the tube levels were kind of goofy. You mentioned the level where there's a heart and you fly around the inside of the heart, and I was like I don't know, man. It's like
Yeah.
it's kind of goofy. Like this, they were going the Tempest route, and it was fine for Tempest, but it doesn't seem fine for this because this game doesn't know whether it wants to be like kind of a goofy shoot 'em up, or if it wants to take itself seriously. And so,
Yeah.
and I kind of just kept wishing it was taking itself more seriously. And but I, it's not a great shoot 'em up, and I would never play this on a flat screen.
Mm.
But I think for $10, it's fun enough, and there's 29 levels, so there's enough variety. It'll take you a few hours to get through, quite a few, if you struggled like I did on some of the levels.
Yeah.
And then, of course, if you're really that kind of person who loves the challenge, then you get to play through all of them again on the hyper mode. The downside, of course, being there's no leaderboards.
Yeah.
There's no two-player option
Nope.
of any kind. So it's got limitations. But I think if you like shoot 'em ups and you like to see the potential, like a look at what shoot 'em ups, like a retro shoot 'em up style game could look like in VR, this isn't a bad place to start. And I hope that more developers will take a look at this and go, oh, this is a nice jumping off point. We could certainly take this formula and go further with it in VR. So it's a two, but I think it's designed for a very specific type of person.
Yeah.
Yeah, $10. Yeah, I don't think you'll regret it, and you might already own it. So
Yeah. Not even know it.
yeah, check your library, man. You might have downloaded this for when it was free on PlayStation 3, and then you're good to
Yeah.
go.
There you go.
What did you think, man? I'm curious to hear this.
So I'm not the biggest fan of shooters like this. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't gravitate towards this type of game on a regular flat screen, certainly. VR is the only reason I dove into this one, and because we needed something to talk about. And so, with that being said, I thought it was pretty neat. I liked the viewpoint. I got it. It didn't. It's funny because it totally didn't need to be in VR. There was nothing like overwhelming VR about this game.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have played it on a regular flat screen. So just sitting there, seeing the ship there, and just kind of just being like almost like your just faces right against the TV in a sense. I mean, that was neat, to kind of do that. But like you, I felt there was a lack of mobility to my ship, where it was still a disconnect, even though you were in VR because you were limited to left and right. If you were able to kind of do that forward, back, and go in and out and rotate around, just a little bit more mobility, I think would have had the immersion level increased a bit. I wish there was massive enemies like end bosses. Like a lot of these games, when you fight in these shooters, there's incredibly large, big ass enemies to fight. You know what I mean? Where you're like, how am I going to defeat this thing? It just and eventually it blows up.
Yeah.
But I wish there was like really like I'm talking like earth shatteringly enormous enemies in this game.
Yeah, I will say we could have used a lot of those earlier on. There was
Yes.
the bosses earlier on are like they're cool,
Minuscule. Yeah.
but they're certainly they're certainly on the smaller side.
Yeah. And with the power-ups, the whole ship and the heads-up display being lacking, but it being based on the ship, if they had a teeny bit of a tutorial, it doesn't even really need a tutorial, but some sort of an explanation of where you can find these little details,
Right.
that would have helped a little bit to monitor shit and just to keep things, in check a bit. So not that this was a bad game. It's not my cup of tea at all, but I played it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was all right. I mean, I'm giving this more of a, in the two. It's definitely a two because for the money, it's $10. It's not that expensive at all. There's a lot of levels to play. And, me jumping in to play this game, I thought it was going to be like a struggle to make it to the end.
Yeah.
But no, it just kept me going because I thought it was neat. And there was enough variety, just enough so that was like at a point where you're like, ugh, when's this going to change? And all of a sudden it does. You know what I mean? So it changed enough with your viewpoint of the ship and where you were oriented from your view that it kept it interesting enough. But it definitely seems more like the beginning point of a really good shoot 'em up type of game. Like if they have this as their foundation, certainly to build off of it, whatever they came out with next would definitely be very strong too, or maybe getting onto a one territory. But yeah, I mean, for the money and for what you got out of it, and seeing as though you can play it on a flat screen too, It's definitely a 2. It's well worth it. You know. Sweet.
Shout out to Mark who suggested this game because he actually messaged me on Patreon. He actually volunteered to buy your copy of the game if we did this.
Wow.
I didn't take him up on that offer, but thank you, Mark. We appreciate the offer,
Yeah, thank you.
and thank you for convincing us to do this game. It was a lot of fun. But you guys in the comments, let us know what you want us to play next week or the week after or the week after that, man. Like we're starting to build up a list of stuff again. It's happening, and man, we're just gonna keep playing these games and talking about them for you.
Yep. I'm ready.
All right, Jeremy, let us know what you thought of Hypervoid. I forgot. Tell us in the comments below. Yeah. For another episode of Why We Love PlayStation VR, I'm Brian Paul.
And I'm Jeremy King.
And we'll see you
next week.
There we go.